welcome. Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bar 911-970, and as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch one of my videos, whether it's live or watching it days, weeks, or months later. Thank you so much. And I had an interesting dream last night, and I always love to interpret things because if you pay attention to your dreams, they have meaning to them, or they could if you want to pay attention to them. And I won't go into the major details, just the part that was most important. And for some reason, I fell into some pit, and it looked like something that somebody dug, and it looked like it was really high, and there were people above kind of laughing, saying, "Oh, you're stuck." And I got the sensation like there were bones and everything around, like people were stuck in this pit and couldn't ever get out. And then I just thought to myself, and I ended up getting out of the pit because what I did was I dug little slits into the sides of the dirt and made little places to put my feet and then places to put my hands and then climbed up. So basically what that teaches you is you can get out of any situation if you think about it. So I love dreams like that. It helps me to realize that I'm on the right path. And as long as you think properly, there's always a way out of things. And that's relevant to what's going on today. We see with these riots and we see with all of this hatred and this separation and divide and conquer that many people are starting to wanting to give up and thinking there's no way out. And I would love to be the voice of reason for anybody willing to listen that, like I've said in previous videos, in an infinite world with infinite possibilities, there are infinite ways to go. There are no dead ends unless you choose or believe that is your only course that you can travel. You can always turn around, you can always go in a different direction. But when you give up, you've basically sealed your fate. And the title of this video is about what evil wants from us. And for some reason, after that dream, I woke up, it was probably around 7 in the morning, and I wanted to make a video, but I realized most people probably on a Saturday morning are not going to be paying attention, so I wanted to wait. But it really made me think about free will. Now, I don't know how many people are religious out there. Me, I believe for there to be a creation, there has to be a creator. Now, I don't believe how man interprets God as some white bearded man hanging around from a cloud saying he has infinite love but judges to people to the point where if you eat meat on a Friday, you can go to eternal damnation. I don't believe in that. Now, belief to me is irrelevant. We'll all find out eventually. But I do believe we had to have come from somewhere, and when we pass on, we go somewhere else, because we can't go to nothing, because if that's the case, then how did we come from nothing? So I believe there has to be more to it than what we've been told. So in my opinion, I believe when it comes to free will, what if free will is put there to separate those who are willing to sacrifice, those who are willing to speak truth or do good, and then maybe if there is a judgment day, our actions of what we chose to do determine where we go in the next life, or if we have an afterlife, or who knows. And I thought of it this way. You see all of these people these days, and it's always been, where people always justify what they do. And as long as they can convince themselves that it's okay, well, they'll go and do it. And that's why, for example, when we see something like Charlotte, the more you realize this, you see there's already news. Now, we don't know how accurate it is because they do manipulate things. So according to some of the news, they're saying about 70% of the people that are at these riots do not even live in the state of North Carolina. They come from other places. Now, what their reasons are, I don't know. And like I've said, whether this is a staged event or it was 100% legit, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is the outcome and what people do with that situation. And you notice a lot of people are venting anger that may be justified because whether people want to admit it or not, the African American community has been treated unfairly compared to a white person. This is fact. Unfortunately, most people don't want to believe this, but it's true. But also, on the same token, people are always responsible for what they choose to do. You could reach for the stars if you try and find a way to get there, or you could just give up and blame society for what happens to people in the past. And we focus on the past to vent our anger. And that's a dangerous road to go, because these days we have more opportunities for all of us than we probably have had for thousands of years. I mean, look at things like, for example, the Spanish Inquisition, where people were murdered for their religious beliefs. What about like Salem, with people blaming everybody with witchcraft and people could be burned at the stake just for their beliefs? I mean, look what happened with the Romans and what they did to Christians just because they believed in different gods. So, as bad as things can be, there were no such thing as good old days. We always like to romanticize the past. But if we think about the past, with all the people that were murdered and slaughtered and how unfair things were, we have a better opportunity now than probably in any of the recorded history in our lifetime. And we tend to focus on the past instead of focusing on our present and our future. And my thing is, if we decide to justify evil as an excuse, then evil wins. And my thing is, I may not be able to solve the world's problems, but I'm happy with sacrificing some of my happiness to be able to do something that could lead to potential good. And that's where a legacy can be born. And trust me when I say, and I'm sure many people in this type of truther movement, quote unquote, and I say that in quotes because it's hard to know the truth in a manipulated system where many things we thought were the truth were lies. So it's hard to decipher, and a lot of it has to be based on emotion and what we resonate with. But if you have been in this community, you know you lose friends, you lose family. People ignore you, people criticize you. There are complete strangers that will come to my channel just to promote hate, just because of my ideas and what I think about. And my thing is, I really believe that free will gives us the choice to say, okay, here's your opportunity to do whatever you want. Do you choose to do the right thing to the best of your ability, or do you choose to do the wrong thing, which tends to be the easier way? And that's why they say it is easier to destroy than it is to create. But it doesn't take intelligence or wisdom to destroy something. It takes patience, it takes time, it takes passion to create, and it does take intelligence. Anybody can push over a tree, but how long does it take for that tree to grow? So I really believe that evil, and like this, you could see the little quote here. It says either God wants to abolish evil and cannot, or he can but does not want to. And it really makes you think, what if we've been placed here to see, okay, let's let humans do whatever they want. And let's see if they choose to do the right thing. Let's see if they choose to love their neighbors, or they choose to hurt their neighbors. And we see so many people these days that they may have justified anger, but instead of creating good from that or something positive from that, they destroy. And who knows if we have consequences for our actions when we pass on. We will never know until it happens. And I don't say do good for fear of being judged, but because it's the right thing. And we miss out on so many opportunities to make a group of people or a political situation or an idea into something beautiful. Because if people are being treated unfairly, and you go destroying things to the point where it undermines the very cause that you say you stand for, that is not going to bring positive influence to the situation. It makes people scared. And if you see things, for example, where you have a black police officer shooting a black man, it's a tragedy in itself. But then you have people that want to hate people of other colors that had nothing to really do with it. Now, I understand, like I said, there are minorities that get treated unfairly, and that is sad. But I shouldn't, for example, as a Caucasian man, have to apologize for something that I had no part of. And people should not take out their frustrations on people who did nothing to you. Because not all groups of people are evil. And we lump everybody in. And that's why they say a few bad apples spoil the tree. Because instead of blaming the few apples that went bad, they blame the whole tree, when that is not the case. And I think what evil wants, and that's why I titled this video, is for us to continue to justify what we're doing, to ignore helping people. Because it's easier. Ever hear the expression, anything worth having is not easy? And I am proud to have sacrificed the things that I've sacrificed to speak to those willing to listen. And I wish more and more people would do it. Because there are always ways to make your point known without using violence. It's like having two different children, and one can't get attention, and all they do is scream and yell and break things. That gets attention, but it's not positive attention. And if you get a child that creates and learns to speak and communicate, it will eventually get the attention it wants. But there's two different types, and it's all based on choice. If we continue to do evil, is it any surprise that evil keeps thriving? There has to be sacrifice in order to succeed when it comes to combating evil and corruption. And all you have to do is look through history and see that the riots don't work, that the revolutions don't work, that the murders and wars don't work. They will work temporarily, but always evil takes over because we continue to do the same thing over and over. And that's why I tell people that you have to separate emotion from logic. Now, I'm not saying eliminate emotion. Of course, you have to have emotion, but there's a time and place for everything. If you are in a crowded area where there's some kind of situation going on, and you panic and just react, you are more likely to put yourself in harm's way. But if you stop and think and try and analyze the surroundings and process what's going on, you increase your chances of survival. So what I'm saying is emotions are wonderful, but not when it comes to the point where you don't think about a situation, because there are always consequences to your actions. And if you think these riots in Charlotte, the way people are coming in out of these areas, and they are trying to want to fight people, because you'll see the news try and interview somebody walking by, and they'll threaten violence. If you think that is something that's going to help raise us up, then you're kidding yourself. And if we continue to choose to ignore it, then how are we any better? And that is why it would be so much easier for me if I created a different channel. I even tried that at one point. I tried to do a comic book channel. And I'm so glad I got trolled, and the trolls that were from here hunted me down there and harassed me and did all this stuff, because it made me come back to what's more important. But if I wanted to choose an easier way to make lots of money on YouTube and become popular, I could have done video games or comedy or something like that. Here, I'm hated by some people, to the point where I've gotten death threats. None of my family talks about this stuff. None of my friends talk about this stuff, because they would rather pretend it doesn't exist. And I wish that it didn't. But for whatever reason, we are here at this pivotal moment. Maybe we're the ones that can decide, do we continue the cycle and destroy ourselves yet again, and it starts over again until another society comes along? Or are we finally the ones that say, look, we have all these opportunities, we have the internet, we can communicate in ways that we may never have had before, at least that we know about. And we can choose to use that time to spread hate and spread separation and spread disharmony, basically evil. Or we could start spreading good, because like I said, when you are being peaceful, it doesn't mean you just stand there and take it. It just means you find a better way. You don't always have to shoot somebody to get past things. It's easy to kill. I mean, there are times like, you ever open the door and a moth comes in because it's nighttime and they see a light? It's very easy to take a book or a newspaper and smash it and kill it. But it's better if you just scoop it in your hands and set it free. Either way gets the job done, but at least you didn't extinguish a life in the process of doing it. And some people think, oh, you're a pacifist and all. What's wrong with not wanting to injure and kill? Because especially if you are a believer in God, whatever God that may be, we're supposed to nurture life. At least that's what I've been brought up to believe in. And Awakened Nomad says violence is inevitable when we are dealing with these people. If that's what you believe, then that's what's going to happen. This is the point that people say. Unfortunately, we've been so programmed to think that we can only travel down one road that we will continue the very thing that continues to happen. And that's war, and that's violence, and that's injury, and that's theft. That's why it's happened throughout recorded history. It's because people are not willing to let go of the old system. And my question is why? Because here's the wonderful thing. If you try a different way and it fails, you can always go back to your wars and your violence. Because, like I said, how many riots have we had in the past 5 years? How many of you can even remember them? And yet, what have they done to change things? Remember Occupy Wall Street? And all the people that were pepper sprayed and all the people that were injured and all the destruction? Has anything changed with all that violence? I don't understand why people cannot find a different way. And my thing is, I would rather try and do the right thing and fail than to pretend I don't care and pretend I can't do anything and allow evil to thrive. Because like they say, evil thrives when good people do nothing. But doing something, you might as well do something good and beneficial. If you don't like a product, don't destroy the people that create that product. Build a better product. And then it will make the other obsolete. There is a reason why nobody jogs with cassette tapes on their shoulders or on their sides anymore. It's because they've been replaced. We didn't have to go to the cassette manufacturing companies and shoot them and burn them. We just had to create something better. And that's all it takes. If we do not like how a government runs, well, we the people are supposed to be the ones that can create a new government. Remember, at least in this country, in the United States of America Corporation, the Constitution, it works by the consent of the governed. Well, if we no longer consent as a people, well, then that document no longer has value, and it no longer works, because that document is not working the way it used to. We don't have due process anymore. We don't have an honest government. We don't have a media that's supposed to be the fourth, basically, branch of government. Not literally, but they were supposed to be an extension to keep them all in check. And they've been bought. And that's why all of these FBI agents that have been almost basically proven to be hiding emails and hiding documents and destroying documents and neglecting subpoenas are all getting free passes to do whatever they want. When you give up, you fail. That's all I can say. The people that are over in Charlotte or any of the other places, I can understand why they're angry. But if you don't try and make things better, you will never succeed. I mean, look at people like, for example, Rosa Parks. How she made her stand by not pulling out a gun and shooting a bunch of white people, by not going and burning the bus, by not stabbing the person that asked her to move. She just stood her ground and said no. And look how much has changed. Look how many people can change things peacefully. And if enough people do it, it will gain attention. It will gain speed. One drop of water can't do anything but maybe annoy you. But an ocean can drown you and make you disappear. It's all unity, and that's what they don't want. Why do you think they want to publicize all of these black people saying, "Down with Whitey," and how white people are putting on KKK outfits saying we need to kill those you-know-whats? And you think that's going to help bring us closer together? You think that's going to bring something positive? I mean, I've said it in other videos. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care about your sexual preference. I don't care who you pray to. I care if you're a good person or not. We continue to consent. We continue to fight. We fight amongst ourselves instead of no longer consenting to these corrupt systems. And it requires sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice for the greater good? And if you're not, then we cannot help. We cannot win. And the awakened nomad says we can win how? Well, I've said many ways how, but people choose to not listen. It's sacrifice. It's not participating in the system. There's a reason why governments give you free stuff, quote unquote free stuff, which is not free. Because they want to buy your votes. And how is it that somebody like Barack Obama can say to the black communities, if you don't vote for Hillary, I take it as a personal insult? Isn't that insulting? Are they assuming because you are African American that you're supposed to automatically vote for Democrats? Well, we've had Democrats for the past 8 years. Aren't they the reason why we're in the situation we're in? So you would want to continue to vote for the very system that has done nothing for you? And what does the color of the skin have to do with anything? I've had plenty of friends that are different colored skin than me. I don't understand the separation. We're taught to hate. Media is going to show every single person that wants to kill somebody else or injure somebody else in the situation, instead of talking about the people that's saying that stuff is wrong and it's not representative of everyone. And they will lump all people together. There will be more hatred. And while we're hating one another, the governments and the banks and the corporations are continuing to find ways to sneak behind your back and create new laws that will steal from you. So you can believe anything you want. And Awakened Nomad says you have to buy your freedom. Well, if that's the case, then you're not truly free. Who are you buying it from? People are always saying, oh, you want to be free, you have to send in all these documents to a government and fill out these forms and send in all this money. Well, how are you really free? You're not free if you have to ask permission. A king has never asked anyone if they're free. They just are. And you could beg to differ all you want. That's fine, if that's what you believe. So who are you paying money to become free? And why are they the ones in charge of your freedom? Were we placed on this planet? I mean, is anybody religious anymore in any extent? Was Adam and Eve placed on this planet with a toll booth and a taxpayer saying, here you go, now you're free to work and do what you're told? That's why they say, I am. There's supposed to be no connection with anything. And the reason that we are trapped is because we believe we are. If everybody on this planet that didn't work for government decided we're not taking this anymore, what will be done to stop us? And like I've said, I've used the analogy of if you are kidnapped on a pirate ship, and a pirate kidnapped one person at a time, and they had 100 crew. So 100 crew would take over one person very easily and kidnap him, put him on their ship. So let's say after a month, they kidnap 1,000 people, one at a time, put them on their pirate ship, and then sail out in the middle of the ocean where the 1,000 people have to do what the captors tell them. Now, all the captors have guns and swords and knives. And the 1,000 that got captured have nothing. And every now and then, if somebody gets out of line, they take one of them and they throw them overboard, creating fear. That equals control. Now, what if the 900, let's say there's 900 of them left, and they decide they want to no longer be slaves? Well, let's say one of them says, I no longer want to be slaves. He goes to the captain and says, listen, I don't want to be a slave anymore. And for whatever reason, the captain says, okay, you're no longer a slave. Well, you're stuck on that boat. Where are you going? So that's great. You don't have to do the work that everybody else does, but you're still somewhere you don't want to be. And what happens if the 900 decide, you know what, we're taking over this boat? And 900 people all stand up to the 100 people with guns on that ship and say, we're taking over. What do you think the 100 are going to do? They're going to lose. And they wouldn't even have to pull the trigger of any gun to get that settled. People are so afraid to realize the power that they have that they create the very things they don't want. Your belief system controls your reality. And if you believe you have no power, well, is it any wonder why you're powerless? This is a planet of consumption, where one species attacks another for dominance. Why do we have to stay that way? Is this supposed to be our destiny, to be controlled? And if that's so, then what kind of life is it? I don't believe that's the case, because then people like me and many others would not speak up. Because if there's no hope, why bother? And if people are here listening to this, and of course, as usual, there's not many, then they do believe there is hope. And 777 says, afraid of sacrifice. Well, if you're afraid to sacrifice, then you'll continue to get the little scraps that they give you, and then you'll never get anywhere, and you'll complain your whole life. I've heard nothing but people in my lifetime always justifying and complaining and giving excuses why they can't do things. Now, a lot are legit. I mean, if you are crippled, it's going to be a lot harder to do something. But it's not impossible. Unless you believe so. It's all based on belief. And if we want to continue to hate, if we want to continue to let evil win, well, I really hope there is no such thing as judgment after we go. I really hope that's not there, because if we are supposed to be judged, and they look at our history and they say, oh, you promoted violence and you justified it because you were angry? Sorry. Oh, you chose to do nothing because it was too difficult? Sorry. And I'm not going to say that you do it to buy your way into anything. What I do, I don't do to score points. I do it because it's right. I mean, some of the biggest loves in my life are my 3 animals that I rescued. And it means a lot to me to know that I am responsible for the fact that they are still alive. I could have easily looked the other way. I could have easily gave them up or pretended they weren't there and not take the responsibility. And we've had to spend a lot of money to keep them alive. But to me, when I look in their eyes and they look in mine, to me, that's everything I need. So I really hope people start understanding their power of choice. You could look the other way, but you can't look the other way forever. I mean, if a tsunami's coming, look away all you want. Pretend it's not there all you want. Go party and drink and get drunk and stoned and have all this fun. And think that's going to help you. Fear equals control, and fear is a learned experience. You are not born with fear. Put a baby, well, I don't want anybody to do this, but if you put a baby in a swimming pool filled with tarantulas, it won't try and escape, it won't cry, it won't run for fear, it won't be scared, it will probably want to play with them. We are taught fear. We are taught hate. We are taught division. Take 3 babies, 1 Chinese, 1 African American, and 1 Caucasian, and put them in a room together. Do you think they're going to want to kill each other? Do you think they're going to want to hate each other and not speak to one another? Or do you think they'll play with one another? We are taught hate. And the very government, the very liberals out there, the liberal government, the Democratic government is trying so hard to make you think it's everybody else's problem that you start to believe it. And you don't take responsibility for what you choose to do. You choose to continue to hate. And trust me, I'm very well versed in this of hatred. Because when my parents got divorced, my mother met a gentleman about a year and a half later, who was an alcoholic. So I was around 11 years old when they were first together. And to make a long story short, I've had shotguns put to my head. My head was rammed through a wall. He used to put pornographic, tapes and stuff underneath my bed. He would hide all his porn stuff underneath my bed as a child. He was a very angry person and made it very clear how much he didn't like me at all. And from the age of 11 to about 25, I had to deal with that individual. Wanted to kill him. Came close once or twice. But then I realized, I remember watching this, it was Channel 13, they were doing a telethon, and there was this one woman that was selling this videotape, and I remember it was a $75 donation to get this videotape. And I had about $80 to my name, and I said, you know what? This is something I need. And I donated the $75 to get the videotape, and I wish I could remember what it was. I lent it to somebody years ago, and they never returned it, so I don't remember the name. But it basically, in a nutshell, said that forgiveness is not for the person. Because when we are abused or attacked or hurt, we don't want to forgive them because we're like, oh, why do we let them off the hook? Why should they get away with what they got? And what it ends up is forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. It's for you to let go of the anger that you feel because it keeps you down. And I remember forgiving him for the things he did. And I didn't do it even to his face. I just acknowledged the forgiveness on my own. And that weight of that anger went away. And trust me, this gentleman was an alcoholic. Severe. I remember when I was a teenager one day that he handed me a bottle of NyQuil and asked me to hide it. And I was like, well, why does he want me to hide cough medicine? And then I realized when I got older that when alcoholics couldn't get alcohol, they would drink things like NyQuil. So I know what it's like to be abused. And I don't know how many of you have had shotguns to your head, ready to think you're going to die. I've been there. So I could have easily went down the hatred road. I could have easily become an alcoholic. I could have easily said, the world owes me everything. No, what I did was, everything he stood for, I wanted to be the opposite. And he did not give a crap about anything. I chose to give a crap. It's all a choice. But sometimes you have to let go of that anger, because I know what it's like, because I was like, when I first heard that on that videotape, I'm like, F that. Why does he get away scot-free of all the things he's done to me and all the things he did to my mother and all the things that he's put us through? Why does he get to do all that and then get off scot-free? And then I realized they don't. Everybody is responsible for their actions. I believe that everybody will pay in some way, shape, or form for what they do. But the forgiveness is to let go of that anger that consumes you, that hatred that is like a 5,000-pound weight keeping you down and dragging behind you. And I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me because I chose to do the right thing. I chose to not become that person, and it would have been very easy to. That guy got everything he wanted. A lot of it he stole. He hurt others. And I could have easily found that. You know how many ways I found out shortcuts of how you could take advantage of the system? But I didn't do it because it wasn't right. And that's why I don't feel bad for the situation. I am thankful for that situation because you know why? If that person wasn't in my life, who knows what type of person I would have become. So bad things in your life are only bad if you don't learn from them. And I chose, basically, somebody loved me enough that they presented a life choice and say, here, this is what you can become if you want. And I said, no, thank you. And he was abusive to my mother, not physically, but mentally, he was extremely abusive. And you have to decide between right and wrong. It's easy to be evil. It's easy to ignore. It's easy to pretend everything's fine. It's easy to justify what you do. But is it right? And only you know that. And that is why one of the most interesting trolls that I have, that I wanted to fight back in 2012, says they're a very religious person and believes in Jesus. And yet, their actions prove that they don't believe the very thing they claim, because they don't do the things that Jesus spoke about. Now, whether you believe in Jesus or not, that's not for me to decide. And I won't hate you or love you less or more on either way you decide. That's your choice. The system is meant to keep you in it. Fight it all you want. Once we break away from the system is when we win. If you go to a casino that you know is rigged, and no matter what you try, you may win every now and then, and there may be people they allow to have win every now and then. But if you lose all the time and you know the system is corrupt, you can complain all you want. You can even burn it down. They'll just rebuild it. Or you could just not participate in it. And if nobody went to that corrupt casino, how long do you think they would stay in business? They thrive off of our ignorance, off of our money, and our ability to just give them what they say they deserve. Because that's what we've been told. We've been told, if you're here, you probably know that we've been told a lot of lies. So why do we keep believing in them? And I'll tell you why. Because it's easier. That's why most people will not make videos like this, because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be criticized. A strong person is a person that could stand up to all oppression. And it's not easy, trust me. It's not easy for me to go almost every day and talk about things knowing that most people won't pay attention. Most of my message will be ignored. There will be people who will hate me for it, and some to the point would want to wish harm to me. And yet I still do it because it's right. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, be some pacifist and just allow everything evil to happen to you. No, you have the right to defend yourself. But the moment you attack, you become the very people you do not like. We have to be better than that. So these people that justify it, oh, well, we're angry, and oh, we were slaves at one point. Well, we're all slaves now, just in a different way, because back when slaves were different, they were placed in chains and they knew they were slaves. Now, they took the chains away. You think you're free? Take all of your belongings and try and leave the country. And watch how quickly you learn that you are not free. And people cheered things like Trump wanting to build a wall. Well, walls keep people in, walls keep people out. They go both ways. So just imagine if you live along the Texas border and they have this gigantic wall, and all of a sudden you realize what this country has fully become, and you want to leave. How you getting over that wall? You're not free in a system that is corrupt. And we keep hoping that the next person that says the things we want to hear is actually going to come along, take the job, and then do the very things that they suckered us into believing. To the point where we will continue to argue and fight with each other, actually wanting to believe so badly that somebody like Trump or somebody like Hillary Clinton or somebody like whoever will come into a corrupt system and say, don't worry, I got this. Even though no one else could do it before and the people in the past that tried got murdered, I will be the one time it happens. And we so want to believe it. and we continue to get fooled. Well, I'm tired of being fooled. I'm tired of believing in a lie. I'm tired of promises that go unanswered. I'm tired of people saying all the things we want to hear just to get something from us. Aren't you? And that is why I've told people, cut up your credit cards. Have a bank card where you can only spend money that you have in the bank. If you have to get an extra job, if you have to return cans, if you have to mow people's lawns or shovel snow to earn a living, then do it. Stop working for corrupt systems. If you work for a bank, then you have no right to complain about the banking system because you're a part of it. If you hate the government and yet you earn lots of money from the government, then you cannot say anything because you're part of the problem. Become more independent. No government system controls what I do. I don't work for any government system. And people will say, oh, well, your AdSense is done by Disney. Well, you know what? And there's going to be some foul language here, so hold your ears if you get offended, but fuck Disney. All I know is, until you become more independent and stop depending on governments to give you their little traces of breadcrumbs while they're eating their caviar, and we thank them for the little slop in the trough that they slobber all over us, nothing's going to change. The system's going to be corrupt. You watch. There will be a stock market crash. The banks will shut down. And if you didn't take your money out of the system, good luck getting it out. And Shannon Dahl says, did you hear about Wells Fargo? I have not. So if you want to say what it is, please do. I'm sure it was nothing good. They just did it again. They did what again? You'll have to be specific. So Shannon, if there's something about Wells Fargo you'd like to share, just put it. Rewarded themselves with buckloads of cash. Of course. That's what they do. That doesn't surprise me. I've already said I don't know, so if you want to say something, go ahead. So, unless you say something, then I don't know. I don't watch mainstream media news. So I'm not going to know what's going on in the world, because I choose to stay away from it. The only way I know stuff is when I learn it from YouTube or some of my subscribers. So, I mean, if you don't want to tell me, then I guess I'm not going to know. So they're saying it's big, and I don't know. Well, I guess I'm not going to know. So we'll continue onward. So anyway, not letting me type too many messages at a time. Yeah, I know. That's YouTube for you. Freedom of speech. But if you say too much, they stop you. They were adding fraudulent accounts to customers. There you go. This is not something that should be new. This should not be something that should be shocking or surprising at this point. I've been warning people for years to get out of the banking system. This is what they're going to continue to do. And one day they're going to shut it down. And people always have the mentality of, oh, I got time. Well, one day you don't. And they said they stole hundreds of millions. Well, you know how much of money they stole of mine? Zero. So my thing is, get out while you can. Better to be 5 years too early than 5 seconds too late. And like I've said with the analogy of a dam, it takes time to come up with the plan to make the dam. It takes time to get the material to build the dam. It takes time to actually build the dam. It takes time for there to have cracks start to form. That could take years. But once those cracks break the dam, it only takes seconds to destroy everything in its path. So Shannon says over 2 million customers, proxy accounts from home loans to checking, savings, and more. Ruined all people's credit. Well, it's a shame they continue to go into that system. I cannot feel sorry for people that just do want to keep thinking that the system is there to help them. Because banks and these corporations will tell you everything that you want to hear. just like Hillary Clinton, just like Bernie Sanders, just like Donald Trump are doing. They're telling you what you want to hear. And people continue to fall for these problems. And they said they may have taken an account out in your name. Well, that's fine, but they're not taking any of my money because I don't put any of my money, or currency, because it's not really money, I don't put it in any bank accounts. And even with my federal credit union, I put in the bare minimum just to keep the account going. And I finally, after all these years, convinced my mother to take out the majority of her money out of the banks for fear if it shuts down. And there will be millions of people that will wake up one day and say, wow, I have no access. How will I pay my bills? How will I get food? How will I keep the lights on? How will I get gas for my car? And those are the very people that said, let's watch the football game. Oh, let's go out to the movies. Let's read about the latest gossip. Let's watch the news. It's all choice, ladies and gentlemen. I don't worry about things like credit score. I only buy things that I have the money or the currency for. I don't use credit anymore. Credit's what's ruining this system. The banking system is what's ruining this country. And yet, I am sure lots of people listening to this either now or years later or months later all have bank accounts. One day, they will confiscate it because people don't realize when you deposit money into a bank, you are technically giving it back to them. That's why they can stop you from taking it out or tell you you're only allowed to have a certain amount. If you're supposed to be free, well, if you put $10,000 of supposedly your money into the bank, you should be able to take $10,000 out the next day if it was truly yours. Why do they make you fill out forms? Why do they only give you a percentage? Why do they tell you no? You're not free. It's the illusion of freedom, freedom of choice. I have two hands up. They are both clenched in a fist. You get the choice of picking which one punches you in the face. It's freedom, but you don't like either one. It's the same thing with Democrat or Republican. They both work for each other. Why do you think right now they're having all these congressional hearings, and as much as the Republicans are up in an outrage, and as much as the Democrats are denying anything evil ever happened, nothing is getting done. No one is being imprisoned. No answers are getting solved. They work together. So, to be honest, they can use my name. They can commit fraud. But they're not taking any of my money or my currency because it's not there to be confiscated. As soon as I make enough money, I either pay bills or I buy things with it and turn it into tangible assets. I pretty much these days either buy food or water, silver and gold, or comic books, because to me, they still have some kind of value. And if they don't, it's the very last thing I purchase with my currency that makes me happy. I don't do that as much anymore as once I did when I had my other channel. But it's kind of hard to confiscate thousands of dollars if you don't have it in your possession. But I could easily turn around and sell things if I have to. Or barter with things. I have plenty of things that have the ability to barter. So my thing is, do whatever it takes to succeed. Do whatever it takes to do the right thing. If you continue with evil, don't be surprised that evil continues. You keep playing in a corrupt system, and then we complain about that very corrupt system being unfair. Well, duh. If you want to work for a corporation that treats you unfairly and all you do is complain about how much it sucks to work there and, oh, you can't find another job, well, create your own job. There's always a way. How hard are you willing to do it? So, that's all I want to say at this point. If you guys want to keep up the conversation, please do. Remember that once this is no longer live, it takes probably anywhere from a half hour to an hour for it to process. At that point, they don't allow comments for some reason. It'll say that the comments are disabled, even though that's not what I'm doing. That's what they do. But what I would encourage is once this video is uploaded, get a dialogue going. Communicate with one another. Once the people realize they have the control, they'll take the power back. There's a reason why there aren't thousands of people watching this, and they don't want thousands of people to watch this, because they don't want you to have a clue that actually that's how you solve the problem. They want you to fight with each other. They want you to hate each other. They want blacks and whites, gays and straights, atheists and religious people to all hate each other. Because what are we doing? We're fighting amongst ourselves instead of paying attention to the very people that caused all these problems and all these divisions and all this hatred. It's taught. If you had a baby that was going to grow up gay and a baby that was going to grow up straight and put them in the same room, they wouldn't want to beat each other up. They'd want to play. Same thing with a black and a white baby. Same with a rich and a poor baby. Same with one that'll grow up to be an atheist and one that will grow up to be a religious fanatic. None of them will go at each other's throats. They're taught to hate. They're taught division. They're taught that this human being, because their eyes look different, or their skin color looks different, or their choices of their beliefs are different, that they are somehow evil or not as human as the other people. And then you have these rich elitist bastards, the ones that supposedly control this country and this world, think that they're superior from us because they have more paper currency. If you want to believe that, that's fine. And then wonder why they continue to control us. I will not get down on my knees and bow to these people. So why does anybody? And why do we continue to allow the same thing happen over and over again? Divide and conquer. So to the black community, anybody in the black community, I don't hate any of you. If you try and harm me, I'm not going to like you. But as far as you being a human being, why can't we communicate? I have no desire to be superior to you or be better than you. We're equal. Same thing with any woman. Same thing with anybody with a different religion or a different sexual preference. You're not beneath me. We're supposed to be all equal. And until we realize that, we're always going to have people dominating. And you could call it Marxism or whatever isms you want. If you want to lump it into that instead of understanding that humans should be allowed to be equal and free. Well, if that's Marxism or something, some kind of ism, that's fine with me. But I would like to think I am not part of any political system, because if you're part of any political system, you may be pigeon-toed into a certain belief. I should think that you would want to believe in anything you want and be able to change it anytime something that comes along is something you don't agree with. It's all choice, ladies and gentlemen, and evil wants you to choose to do nothing. I hope you decide against that. So, as usual, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. As always, I do appreciate the few people that take the time to thumb up my videos and share them. It does mean a lot. When the video uploads, I hope you will leave comments and create a dialogue. Stay here and continue to talk if you want to. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, guys and girls, think for yourselves. Stop letting other people tell you how to live, how to be, how to act. Have a great day.